talked about, as its title show, is Sean Terry really quitting? Now, there's been multiple instances where quitting has been a serious consideration.
Yes.
So let's start with the first major one.
Yeah. So, So just a reference is that, when you're an entrepreneur, and we're talking about being an entrepreneur, there are times when you will come up against a wall when you have no idea what to do, right?
Yeah.
You're stuck. And so we're gonna talk about a couple different times, and the most recent one actually was back in 2019, a story you absolutely have to hear, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But so the first one was your first deal. So some people right now watching, and they're brand new, they've never got a deal, and they've watched a couple interviews, and they see the potential of what could happen in this business. So I bought a course at 33 years old. I was living month to month at a time, and the course was $500. I had to use my wife's first Premier credit card of $250, and my first Premier credit card starter cards at $250. And I bought this course.
You guys are maxing out your credit cards.
Yeah, we're maxing out to buy this course. And it's interesting because I was working as in pool and landscape business, and it was a Saturday afternoon. I was driving to an appointment, a pool and landscape appointment, and I heard this guy on the radio talk about how you could, flip houses with no cash or credit or anything like that. And I was like, what a scam. You can't do that. There's no way. And these guys are making $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 checks. I'm like, that's a joke. So I actually turned the channel. I was like, well, who's going to listen to that? But now I know is like, I had that intuition, that thing inside. It's God kind of tugging you to flip the channel. So I flipped the channel back, and I continued to listen to what he said. And he talked about this concept of wholesaling, where you get a property under contract for a price and you find a buyer for a higher price and you can make the spread. And I was like, I never heard that before. So I had an epiphany of that new idea, and that new idea of what you could do. So I got excited. I convinced my wife to give me her $250 credit card, maxed out my credit card, $500, bought the course, couldn't wait to get it. I got the course, and it came in 2 big like black boxes, right? So I opened up the boxes, and there are all these VHS tapes. So, do you know what VHS is?
Yes, I know.
Yeah, so some of the, like, all the millennials on there are like, what the heck are VHS, right? So, had VHS and had a little binder, and I took the VHS out, I put in my VHS, and I sat there, and I'm like at the edge of my chair, and I'm ready to take notes, and it comes on in black and white, right? And this is in 2003, right? So this is 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So 2003, it comes on in black and white. And this guy has a big old cowboy hat on. He's talking in this southern drawl, and he has these the cowboy. He has like those bell bottoms, chaps on, and he's in front of this board. And he's talking about you can knock on pre-foreclosure doors, and you can have them sell your house, and like Eddie Speed, Eddie Speed, right?
Oh, yeah.
He has that southern drawl, right? So anyways, I'm like, what? And I started looking. He recorded these shows back in 1992, 93, and he did it with this like VHS tape that his like buddy held. And these course was sitting in his garage. So that's all I had, right? We didn't have Zillow at the time. We didn't have any comps. We didn't have GPS. So
skip tracing.
So what he did is he said, buy a list of pre-foreclosures, drive around and knock on their doors. That's the whole premise of the course. And pre-foreclosures are properties that are about to go in foreclosure. And I was like, okay. So that was the whole course. So I found a list, and from Net Value Central, if you remember them, right? Found a list, and I got the list, and I like I said, you didn't have GPS, you didn't have a car with GPS. So what do you do? So I went to MapQuest. Remember MapQuest?
Oh, I remember MapQuest.
Went on MapQuest, and I printed out the address, and then I printed out the address to the next house and the address to the next house, and I basically lined them all together so I could drive from one house, and I was following this. And I drove. I hit about, and at the time I was still doing pools and landscaping, so around my job I was knocking on these pre-foreclosure doors. The first house I went to, now think about this. And here's the thing. Anytime you do something new, you want to have validation from other people. So if you and I are friends, you go, hey, I got this great idea. I'm going to flip some houses. So I went to my father-in-law and he said, I'm all excited, animated. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to make millions. I'm going to get
change
rich.
my life. Yeah.
It's going to change my life. You get this property under contract and you sell for a higher price. You can make a ton of money. And I'm all excited. He goes, you can't sell a house you don't own. Who told you could sell a house you don't own? You can't do that. That's illegal, right? So I'm like, oh crap, right? I didn't know that, right? And he goes, but listen, talk to my realtor friend. He's been doing it for 30 years. He's an awesome guy, friend of the family. Talk to him. So I called the realtor friend and I asked him, I said, hey, I got this thing and and a contract and wholesaling and this. And he said, yeah, you actually can do it. But you'll never find a deal because all those are taken by professionals, right? They have professional teams and big businesses and they go after, these houses and you'll never, ever find a deal. So that was my out of the gate, of these guys. So you know how it's like you have a balloon and you're all like blown up, like I'm going to get, and then all of a sudden you just kind of deflate.
Well, you have typically you have people that are cheering you on.
Yeah.
You already have people who are like, maybe this is not a good idea.
Yeah.
Maybe you shouldn't try this balloon, like you said.
It just collapsed. And I'm like, oh, so I was partially deflated. And now I'm going out knocking on these pre-foreclosure doors. So the first door I go to, I kind of park down the street and I'm kind of casing the place. And, it's May of 2003, so it's kind of hot out. So I kind of go by the house and I have my little clipboard. I have the idea of what I'm going to say. And now, guys, I'm 33. I have a daughter. I'm married. I'm a prior U.S. Marine, right? So, so you think I got this big, tough Marine guy that's going to go up to the house. Hey, how you doing? You want to sell your house? It wasn't like that. So I go up to the house, and they had this gigantic truck that wasn't parked in the driveway. It was parked like across the front of
in the grass.
In the grass, right? So I kind of walk around the truck, and he had the screen door open. The screen door, and then the door was open, and I knock on it, and the screen door kind of shakes like that. And I'm sitting there kind of stand back with my clipboard. I'm like, hi, ready to do my pitch. First house ever. And this dude I'm 6'1", you're pretty tall too. This guy was about 6'7", 6'8". And he had skin, he had skinhead shaved, and he had this tank top on while his hair sticking out. He had gruffy shave and he was kind of sweating. He looked pissed. And he comes behind, and this shadow comes behind the screen. And I'm like, oh crap. And he opens his door and he goes, what do you want? And I'm like, and literally, I've never felt more stupid because nothing came out of my mouth. I was like, and I was like tripping over my tongue. I didn't know what to say. And I literally turned around and hightailed it like a dog, with his tail between his legs, back to my car, sped walk back to my car. I sat in my car and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, part of doing something, and what makes you quit. And this is what happens in in boot camp, and also like what they do with SEAL team and stuff. They tell you all the things in the future that you have to go through to get to the end result, right?
Yeah.
So they go, listen, tomorrow we got to run 8 miles, then we're going to go do this, and then we're going to go do that, and then we're going to do this. So it tires you out in your brain of all the things you have to do. So I sat there in the car. It's May of 2003, living month to month, doing the stupid pool and landscape thing. I go knock on my first door, and I'm like, and I'm thinking, how many doors do I have to knock on? How many people do I have to talk to? How many drive around? And I'm at my first house, right? And I just remember, and I sat there and I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
I can't do it. So, if you're brand new and you might have a fan base where people are, encouraging you, or you might not, or you might be just doing this yourself. You're going to be at a point in time where I sat there and I was like, I can't do this. And I didn't think I had the ability. I didn't think I had what it took. I didn't think I had the wherewithal to kind of do this real estate thing. And I sat there and I quit right there before I even got started.
Yeah.
Now,
if you enjoyed what you just watched, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss another video.